Hello and welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 58. My name is Chris.
Good day, I'm Euan.
Hello, Euan.
Well, I thought I'd better take up some of the space because
you try to drag it out a bit.
Yeah. But it's going to be a short episode, I think.
This is going to be a shorter episode, mainly because Pawel isn't here.
Well, yeah, there's that. Well, it's first time just the two of us in quite a while.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
It feels like it has been anyway.
Because we kind of filled the Pawel void with Dave a couple of times, didn't we?
Yeah, we have. We've slotted Dave into the Pawel.
But he's not here either.
No. Neither of them are actually on their summer holidays.
No.
We were sort of making out as if they were, but they're not going anywhere. They're just, they just don't want to be here today.
We did ask them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we asked Pawel, but apparently he's got bigger important things to do.
Oh, he always claims that.
Yeah, he's probably just fixing a computer in a dingy basement somewhere. That's the impression I get, that's what he does.
Just turn it off and on again.
Yeah, just repeatedly.
Nah. With a blank stare on his face.
Trying to get his money's worth.
Yep.
His hourly wage. Only joking, Pawel. We love you, really. We know you work hard.
Yeah.
Mostly. Okay, so this is a board games episode.
Yep.
We have played a couple of things. One thing in particular that we've been meaning to talk about for how long? Since the beginning of the podcast, I think.
Probably.
It was one of these things where like, oh, you should definitely talk about this game because it's amazing.
When we brought it up, you were adamant that we had recorded an episode at one point.
I think I just made it up in my head because I was sure that
we talked about
doing it so many times.
Yeah.
I think I'd convinced myself that we had already talked about it, but it turns out we haven't. And we've also got an expansion for another game that we'd already talked about, an expansion that turned up. So, yeah, we're going to talk about Mage Wars and Zaya.
Oh, yeah.
So the expansion for Zaya, which is called Embers of a Forsaken Star. So first up, we'll do the full game first. We'll do the expansion later. So let's talk about Mage Wars, Euan. So this is it's been a favourite game of ours.
Yeah.
I've had it for, how long have I had this now? About 2 or 3 years.
I'm not sure. I mean, this is a game that I always thought you had before you started introducing me to weird Euro games.
No, this is I got this as an unexpected Christmas gift actually, and it was only 2 or 3 years ago.
You spotted it,
and it's I mean, I love this game.
It's good fun. I remember you describing it once to me before I'd actually played it as if it's been slightly like the anime in Naruto, just in terms of the fighting. Just being completely, I've got a vague memory. Maybe it was a different game.
I don't know. It does sound like the kind of thing I might say.
Just the fact that it was like, well, essentially you're two different mages, and you could substitute that for ninjas in this case because you're basically just doing a bunch of mental stuff to each other. It's essentially like a 2-player combat game. It's quite simple, really. But it has a lot of sort of nuance to how you can sort of use the different spells that the different wizards can use. There's how many
mages in the base set? Right, so there's 4 mages in the base set. Well, we should actually qualify something here.
What's that?
So I've got the old Mage Wars core box because they have renamed it or remade it, and they've kind of structured it a bit differently. But it is the same game for all intents and purposes. So the spells and stuff that are in it are all pretty much the same. I think there have been some minor tweaks to some things, like a couple of the rules. I think they may have added a couple of extra things into it. But for all intents and purposes, it's the same game. So now, when you buy Mage Wars, if you're getting the core set, it's called Mage Wars Arena. There is also something called Mage Wars Academy, which is supposed to be a kind of beginners, sort of introducing people into the game sort of thing. And it uses a lot less stuff. In fact, I don't even think there's a board in Mage Wars Academy. I have no idea how that's going to work, but Yeah, that's how it is. I get the feeling that they were kind of aiming this at like Mage Wars Academy, at people that play stuff like Magic the Gathering and all these sort of collectible card games, because this is basically, it takes a lot from those kind of games.
Yeah.
Because you are essentially deck building. So you're essentially building a deck of cards. That would be the way that you would describe it. The only difference is that in most deck building games, you're drawing cards out of your deck and just using what you have available. In this, every single card you have is available to you. So every spell that you have picked for your mage when you have built your deck is available at all times. Which makes for like really, really interesting sort of deck building choices. It makes for really interesting decisions that you make during the game as well. Because you can react to just about every situation, and you can set your deck up so that you have sort of tricks up your sleeve in case certain things happen, all that kind of thing. So yeah, there are 4 mages in this box that I have. Like I say, I don't own Mage Wars Arena, so I don't know what is in the Mage Wars Arena core box. I think it's essentially the same stuff, but I don't know if it has the same 4 mages in it. So in this box that I've got, it's got a Warlock, a Priest, a Beastmaster, and a Wizard.
Okay.
Those are the 4 sort of classes that you'd start with in this thing. And you can build a deck. There's a lot of cards in the base box just for building up decks for the different wizards. And the rulebook has recommended decks to use for each wizard, so that if you're just starting the game, you don't have to sit and try and get your head round what everything means. It's like, here you go, put all these cards into a spell book, and there you go. In fact, that's another thing. The spell books are a nice touch in this game.
Oh yeah, it gets you right into the theme of the game. You have your own personal little it's a little folder, a little laminated folder with sort of polythene pockets inside, so you can get like sort of four cards to a page, and you can flip through that at your leisure and look at all your different spells
and decide what you're doing next.
It's you do feel like a wizard with just a whole load of...
Does this game make you feel like a wizard?
It makes you feel like a real wizard. Basically, playing of the game is quite simple. You play it in rounds. You get long actions and short or is it quick actions
and full rounds.
Full round actions. Your mages usually get like a free quick action they can take each round, and you can spawn creatures and things like that will get their own action as well, and you'll have tokens that will denote what's moved and what hasn't and what's used its action each turn.
Yep.
And you just take it in rounds to just swedge each other, just kick the crap out of each other with various spells and creatures. And I mean, there's different types of... It roughly breaks down, and you've got your creatures, you've got your straight up sort of damage spells, like I was with the Warlocks, you've got sort of fire spells like fireballs and things like that. You have kind of enchantments, which roughly fall into, like, you get curses which do horrendous things to creatures and other mages that you might play them on. Or there's more. I don't know what the purple backed ones are. I don't know. They're just general arcane stuff.
I think
they're all kind of more straightforward.
Those are incantations.
Yeah.
So those are what you would think of as just this is a spell that just does something right now.
Yeah. Usually have some kind of specific effect. Something like draining health or mana.
Stuff
that's the most memorable ones.
Well, especially after the game I played the other night, there. You were not happy with that.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I got you back with a health one. So.
Well, true.
Yeah. I guess what we learnt there was health trumps mana.
Well, when you lose all your health, you're dead, and that's it. So, but I mean, we can get into the sort of strategy of that later on. But let's continue just quickly with it.
Just a thought. Don't want to let that one pass.
I'm going to write that down in the notes here.
Remember that.
Write that down.
Health trumps mana. If Pawel was here, he would say something. Stop saying Trump. So yeah, you'll choose 2 cards around.
Yeah.
You might not necessarily play both of them, depending on what you're able to do. You will have a certain amount of mana you'll have a channeling ability, a channeling level, which will tell you how much mana you're going to gain each round. And you can play cards based on however much mana you've got. you start off, you've kind of you kind of want to try and build up. There's like things you can play, like objects and things like that, mana crystals that will improve your channeling.
Yeah.
Equipment that might make certain spells cheaper, things like that. They're cheaper. It's weird to say cheaper when you're talking about mana. It's like you're buying something. I suppose it. But they.
I mean, essentially are. I mean, because mana's really it's the currency of the game, really.
It is.
So you're getting a certain income of mana every round, and you're spending it.
It's the currency of the astral plane.
Exactly. We're capitalising this.
Well, you've
wizarding world.
Well, the mages know you have to exploit. Got to exploit those resources.
So yeah, as you say, you're playing 2 cards. So there's a planning phase at the beginning of every round. There's all sorts of things go on sort of before you actually do anything every round. So you channel your mana, and there's certain upkeep things you might have to do. You're refreshing all your abilities and all that sort of thing. All the creatures on the battlefield will replenish all their stuff. And then, at the end of that sort of upkeep round, you're picking your 2 cards and you play them face down, and when it's your turn, you can use your wizards basically. He's got 2 things he can do. He's got a quick cast thing, and he's got a sort of like actual action thing, which all the other creatures have as well. But only your wizard is the one that can sort of cast the spells, with some exceptions based on some things that you might have out on the board. Some other things may be able to cast spells, but those are sort of very special sort of circumstances. So when it's your turn, you can use your sort of quick cast action, or you can use your sort of full round action to like cast one of your spells, and you just do what it says in the card, really.
Yeah.
And the cards are really, some of them are more complicated than others. Some of them are more straightforward. Some of them are just, like your fireball thing is basically just, I'm casting a fireball at this thing, chuck a bunch of dice. Maybe it'll set on fire as well. There's a D12 in the game that sort of you use for various status effects, I suppose. So you might be able to set something on fire with certain spells, or you might be able to stun things, but there's always a sort of random chance that this will happen, which makes, this is the luck in the game, I suppose, because if you're talking about like a sort of deck building game, most deck building games, the luck in it is based on which card you actually draw in a round. Because all your cards are available to you in this, the luck in this game is all about the dice rolling.
Yeah.
Which is something that drives you mental, Euan.
It's we've said a lot about it.
You've been very unlucky with the dice.
I was very unlucky. Yeah, I was very unlucky in that game and previous games, but yeah, I generally always get the enjoyment out of it because of the. I don't know. It can be quite a fast-paced game.
Yeah.
In terms of like the cards that you play. There's never really a lot like obstructing them or anything like that. You play something and it generally just happens.
Yeah.
There's you can put out enchantments and things like that might block certain moves, but you've no guarantee that that's what's that's going to be any use to you at all. You're just kind of throwing things out quite a lot of the time and just hoping that they'll work.
But that's the thing, because like you say, the object of the game is to get the opposing mage's health down to 0.
Yeah.
And really, by doing that, you're going to have to attack them. So there's all sorts of tricks and stuff. So it's like, we played the other night that we played Warlock versus Wizard. And the Wizard is a very tricky character. He's all about sort of controlling like mana flow and stuff like that. So pumping up his own mana channeling and totally wrecking the other mage's like mana channeling. But at the end of the day, that didn't help me, because the Warlock is more of an aggressive wizard who will just attack.
Yeah.
And throwing creatures out in the battle, demons and stuff out in the battlefield, which, against the wizard ended up, he can control that quite a bit as well. He has a lot of tricks for controlling creatures and stuff like that. But when it came down to it, you just throwing fireball after fireball at me, it was just my downfall, because I ended up just burning to death.
I think that's what I realised was, especially with the Warlock, the offensive spells with them are so powerful that even if you're rolling badly, you're going to
eventually you do, yeah. And it's like I say, so that's the luck in the game, and it's to do with the dice, and you can just go out with the Warlock, which has happened to you on multiple occasions when we've played this, where you've gone out, tried to attack me with something huge, and rolled so badly that I've just not taken any damage, or I've not gone on fire or anything like that. And it's but that's like the sort of, that's what these games are about. It is about luck, and we're going to talk about Zaya in a bit, and I've got we've talked about it before, and my big thing about that was the luck in the game can really break it. And it's kind of the same in Mage Wars. You can feel like you're really getting screwed over if you get a load of bad dice rolls in a row, and then you've run out of attack spells, and you've got nothing left in the tank sort of thing, other than a few tricks that you might be able to pull off.
Yeah. It's interesting how the flow of the game, particularly the one we played there, went where I sort of tried a particular tactic where, and I think I've found with the Warlock in general that just the creatures just haven't ever really served me that well.
Yeah.
Particularly when I was playing against you when you were using the Beastmaster, where you could get a lot of creatures, maybe that were weaker, but you could just overwhelm me, even if they were all on fire.
Yeah.
It was
how many times have we done the Warlock Beastmaster fight? Is it
we've done it. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if it's 2 or 3, but it
always ends up with you dying because there's a bunch of wolves that you've set on fire just beating the shit out of you.
Yeah.
So just like you always die at the hands of burning wolves whenever I'm the Beastmaster.
I tried I tried different things with this one. I tried to take a few sort of actually kind of what you've done with the Beastmaster, have a few sort of lower level creatures to get out just at the start, just to cause a bit of trouble. So it's something that you had to deal with. Then get out things like the mana crystals. I had the Battle Forge, which allows me to, which it builds up its own mana.
Yeah,
and you then can use it to summon weapons, which that happens independently of your mage, so that it helps you sort of get your mage equipped with all sorts of, because there's a lot of cool equipment and stuff which really makes a big difference to how you're
that thing was annoying me. That Battle Forge.
Well, it made a big difference to like me actually surviving, because I had I was armoured up and I was doing more with my attacks and things like that when I got round to doing my attacks. That's the thing, I didn't do a lot of offensive anything really with my mage for the first
but I think that's the thing about Mage Wars is that there is just a period at the beginning of the game where you're just setting out your stall, really.
Yeah.
Where like neither player is really doing that much that's that aggressive.
Well, that's the thing. What I was going to say about it with the way it ended up, I feel like if I'd gone the other way around and tried to use a lot of offensive attack spells at the start, I probably wouldn't have won it. Because to go out of your way to do that, you're leaving out a lot of things that you could do the sort of just one man Zerg rush, throwing everything at it, but then you're left with nothing. And if it doesn't work, then you're screwed, basically.
I don't know if you're screwed. I think Mage Wars it does kind of offset that. The fact that you've got all your cards available to you at all times. And just to give you an idea, actually, I've got my Beastmaster deck, which I'd written down just in case I needed to change anything out of it and try new things. 68 cards in total. So you've got if I play as the Beastmaster deck that I've got 68 cards available to me. If you try one tactic, so if I tried to Zerg rush you with a bunch of animals and it didn't work, there are other things in my spellbook that'll give me a different strategy if it's not working, sort of thing. And I think that's one of the beauties of this game, right? It is having all those things available to you. So if you play stuff like Magic the Gathering, okay, and or any other sort of deck building game, whatever you want to call it, Yu-Gi-Oh and all these kind of things, you do, if you've ever looked these things up, because we don't really play them, okay? I've dabbled with Magic the Gathering back when I was like a teenager and stuff, but we don't really play these kind of games. There are sort of like, if you look these things up, there are winning deck things. So there are certain cards that people will build a deck around, okay? Right. And there might be minor things, but it does sort of, you get the impression that there are certain cards that if you're building a strategy around one card, you should have these cards and these cards and these cards and these cards and these cards. I don't get that with Mage Wars.
No.
Okay, because you've got so much stuff available to you, you can have a really flexible strategy. You can build a deck around one particular sort of idea. So like this is going to be my main thing that I'm going to do. But because it has this whole strategy, like board game thing going on top of the whole deck building thing, it just feels like it doesn't really, like, this spellbook might defeat this mage this time, but it's not guaranteed to defeat that mage the next time.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much luck, there's dice rolling and all that sort of thing. So, and I think that's, like I say, I think that's the beauty of Mage Wars here, because it's just like so much choice is what it is.
Yeah. I think you're right, probably like the sheer number of spells available to you. There's always going to be different things you can try. And like we say, I mean, there's a basic setup for each mage that's kind of customised to their particular style. Like the warlock's all sort of fire and dark demonic sort of spells, and it costs them more to put holy spells or any other kind of, and they all have that kind of thing where it costs you more to put sort of elements that aren't in your sort of your style of play. But you can sort of look across and go, well, maybe there are things there that could be useful to sort of enhance the attacks that I'm doing from like other schools of magic. You can kind of you can bring in a lot of different tactics.
That's the thing. So the wizards themselves, I probably should have said this as well. Actually, is that the wizards themselves have their own abilities.
Oh yeah.
And like you say, it depends. Like, so if you go the warlock, then your spellbook is mostly going to be dark and fire type spells, because those are the cheapest ones to put in your spellbook, and taking anything else costs more. But they have their own abilities. So, like, for example, the wizard that I played against you for the first time, actually, the other night there, has a shield that he can spend mana to just turn off and on at will, basically. But we've got, like, the Beastmaster, so when he's casting spells that are creatures that usually take a full round to cast, he can cast them as a quick action instead.
Right.
Which means that, the Beastmaster can end up just, like you say, the Beastmaster Zerg Rush, just throwing lots of tiny creatures out and just keeping them going and never really stopping. It's a perfectly good strategy with the Beastmaster. The Warlock can, what's the Blood Reaper thing that you can do?
Yeah, that's, you can basically place that on a creature. It gives them, I never actually used it in the last game.
No, you didn't actually, no.
Just because I never got a creature that was really useful at the
point. This is a particular type, isn't it? Is it a demon that has to go on?
No, I think it can be anything. You've summoned, and it basically, you lose 1 health. I don't know if they gain it or something like that.
I think that's what it was.
But they can also like channel like health to you or something. I think is the.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while since I really. I think it's one of those ones that I actually found really difficult to use. Probably. Just the creatures can be a bit tricky. You kind of have to, because most of them are, I think all of them are a full round action to play.
Yeah.
So you're going to be stood there with them. You have to summon them in the square you're in anyway. I don't think I saw any that had a range on them. Don't know if you.
No, I think all the creatures are they're all, you have to summon them in the zone that you're in.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, we should probably say that the game's played on a board which is just 4x3. So it's just a bunch of zones, and it's 4x3.
It's not like a massive amount of movement.
No, so it's a very small thing, and a lot of the spells have ranges on them of like 0 to 1 or 0, which means that's in the zone that you're in. And you can move things around, and so that just adds to the whole strategy, because you can do things like you can put walls, you can cast walls in the middle of the arena to block movement, or if anybody goes through it, like you can put a wall of fire up or something, and if anybody goes through that, there's a chance that they'll just burst into flames and take a whole load of damage. So there's so much going on in this game, and yet I don't find it that intimidating or anything like that. I find that it's just like, I look at this, and like as soon as I got this, I was just like, this is incredible. Like this is just like, there is so much, like there's so many possibilities with this game in terms of like how you build up your deck, what strategies you're going to use, and all that kind of thing.
No, that's the thing. I was kind of slightly wary about rejigging my deck, but using the basic setup and kind of just working out from there was actually, and it was like, oh well, I can look at different things, and there's other options there to, bring in sort of new spells or sort of modify how other things work. So yeah, it's not as intimidating as it might be with other stuff like that, like you say, Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. I think just for the sheer number of cards, but then the weirdness of building decks and that.
The weirdness of going to a store and playing complete strangers.
I suppose so, yeah. I suppose you could just turn up with a box of this, whack it down.
And that's the thing, because Mage Wars, because it's basically a closed system, so there's no random deck like booster pack buying or anything like that.
Yeah.
Is that basically you buy the core set, you go up against somebody who also only has the core set, you've all got the same cards. And there are expansions for it. There are expansions that add in different new types of wizard and new spells and stuff like that, but they've always got the same stuff in them. So nobody has any advantage over anybody else if you're playing. So do you want to talk about health trumps mana?
Well, I guess that's the name of the game.
That's it. That's the name.
Health does trump mana.
You can completely ruin somebody's mana channeling, but if they completely ruin your health, you've lost.
It's true. I mean, but when we talk, what I was saying earlier about how these cards can be really powerful, and they do just, you play something that basically drained all my mana and gave it to you.
Yep.
And that was insanely powerful. But it didn't, it was, as long as you had the mana to play it, there's nothing stopping you doing it, and there's no kind of defence of that on my side, like especially particularly with things like the incantations and the enchantments in particular, they don't actually cost that much in mana, but they can be really devastating. I played one on you that was basically any spell you played took health off you, which you then flipped right back onto me,
because the wizard has got so many tricks.
But that's the way, the kind of turnarounds you can have. And then I played near later on in the game, I realised I had one that drained. It was quite similar to your mana drain for health, and that was, I just like, I can just play this. This can just happen. Right, fair enough. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
It's like so free just to be able to. There's a lot of games would kind of put kind of caveats on more powerful cards, like how you can use them and things like that. This is quite open in terms of just smacking people with insane spells.
I think that was the thing that sort of kind of staggered me when I first got this game. It was just how open it was. It was just a case of so you can do any of this stuff, as long as you've got the mana, you can do that.
Yeah.
And that's it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did. Yeah, certainly in that game, you put me in a position where I had basically no mana for most of the game, and I somehow managed to win in the end.
Anyway, final thoughts on Mage Wars.
It's a quality wee bit of battleage.
How would you rank this in terms of up there with your favourites, or?
I don't know,
because it's up there with my favourites. It's one of my sort of favourite games.
One of your top 10.
Aye. And there are, I should have said actually, there are sort of rules for playing it multiplayer as well, so it doesn't have to just be one-on-one battles.
That should be interesting.
You can just put in an arena and play 2v2 or just sort of everybody for themselves or whatever, which could be an interesting.
That's definitely. I'd love to see that.
I think that would just be complete chaos, to be honest. There'd just be too much stuff going on.
I think it would be kind of fun though.
But wolves that are burning and poisoned and covered in rot and stuff, just slaying a priest.
I mean, I don't know if it's because I feel like I've said a couple of times, a few times more in this last year that certain games have been my favourite. Yeah, I said it about Food Chain Magnate.
You're allowed to say that, though.
Yeah. But I don't want to say about every.
Well, you're allowed to have more than one favourite game.
Aye. Well, Mage Wars isn't one of them.
Alright, fine, fair enough.
I like Mage Wars.
I'm not arguing with you.
Stop making me play favourites.
Play favourites with your children, Euan, come on.
My children are all board games.
Well, it's one of my favourites. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And I knew I would before I got it. Like I say, it was a surprise Christmas present from a girlfriend who knew that I wanted it. Because I'd just been jabbering on about it for months probably, but I'm absolutely loving it. I have picked up one of the sort of small expansions for it, which has added a couple new wizards, a different warlock actually, and some sort of little dwarf war master or something, a warlord, who looks interesting. But I'm looking forward to trying those out. They look like fun.
It's one of those games we always find we should play more often.
Oh yeah, totally.
I think we have actually one time played it in preparation for this podcast and then just completely forgotten that we played it.
I think we did actually. Yeah. Okay, so that is Mage Wars.
Just get the original edition.
If you can pick it up, well, you can get Mage Wars Arena now. And you can also get Mage Wars Academy. And Mage Wars Academy, like I say, is supposed to be a sort of introduction to the whole Mage Wars thing. And then Mage Wars Arena steps it up into what we play.
Right.
So yes, that is Mage Wars. That is designed by Brian and Benjamin Pope and published by Arcane Wonders.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on to Xayah. So, back in episode 20, we talked about Xayah, which it was a lot longer ago than I thought. I thought we talked about it much more recently than that. I remember talking about it because I had some sort of feelings on this. And this was a Kickstarter that I bought. So, I'm talking about the base game here, Xayah Legends of a Drift System. It was a Kickstarter that I got. It was quite a massive Kickstarter. It was a really well done Kickstarter. Lots of transparency. That's how to do your Kickstarters, people.
Yeah.
Be honest.
I think there was you did a section as part of that episode
of just
about
like how
just about Kickstarters in general.
Just how you should run your Kickstarter.
Yeah.
If you're running a Kickstarter, be transparent, be open, be honest, ask for opinions, all of that kind of thing.
Like the bloke from
Get the people involved, make sure they know what's going on, because people will forgive you if there are delays as long as you're honest about it. Alright?
It's like anything.
Don't tell lies. Anyway, back to Xayah Legends of a Drift System. So this is... The base game is it's a sandbox sci-fi, just open, do what you want in a sort of big space system called Xayah. And it's... You get a little ship, you can batter around in the galaxy, you can go and pick up cargo cubes from planets and sell them to other planets, or you can go and mine for those cargo cubes, or you can just go and attack people, other quests. People, do quests that you can pick up from various places. It's essentially something like Elite Dangerous in board game form, with a much more sort of laid back, chilled out feel to it. It's not quite as intense, and your ships are all customizable. There's little sort of what we'd like to call Tetris pieces, sort of kind of different shapes that you have to try and fit into your ship's cargo hold in different ways, so you can kit out your ship with like missiles and engines and shields and blasters, and any space you have available is just cargo space for you to put your different cubes of cargo into. So yeah, like I say, it's a sandbox game where you can just punt about and do what you like, really. And there are NPCs in it as well. You know, there's a sort of police type ship that will go and attack anybody that has a bounty on them. So if you do anything bad, you get a bounty. You can get hunted. People can win your bounty for killing you. There's a sort of pirate ship that goes around just trying to kill innocent ships. So if you've not got a bounty on you, the pirate ship's he might come for you at some point. And there's a merchant ship who just goes around from planet to planet getting fatter and fatter, and you can blow him up if you want and take all his stuff, but then you get a bounty on your head for it. So yeah, there's a lot of options in Xayah. There's a lot going on in it. Now, one of my big complaints about it, because I really looked forward to getting this, when this whole Kickstarter was running, it was just like, this is like a perfect game when it was running. And then we sat down and played it a few times, okay, and you just realise how much luck is involved in this game. In terms of, like, everything that you do is down to a dice roll. So I briefly mentioned it when we were talking about Mage Wars there. And I've had some, on more than one occasion actually, just really shit experiences with Xayah, in terms of just like, I have an engine, it's like I can roll a d8 for that engine, and every turn I rolled a 1 or a 2. Or anytime I tried to do anything that was potentially hazardous, I would roll that dice and it would blow my ship up or something.
I think the last 2 times we played this game, isn't it? That's happened to you.
Yeah,
the last 2 times I played it with you.
And it's just luck. I'm not going to. I'm not going to be like, this is your fault. It's not like I'm not blaming anybody for it. It's just, like I'm not sitting there taking it out on the person that's winning or anything like that. Like, you just don't do that. It's just luck. But you can, but you sit there and you just go like this game. I've been sitting playing this game for like 2-3 hours now, and I've done nothing. Because I can't get anywhere, and it has happened to me, and I think I've just had a run of really bad luck with it. And that kind of put me off from playing it a bit, I think. Yeah. Because I probably would have played it a lot more if a lot of those things had just been offset. And I think that, like, that whole dice rolling system, I mean, I want to say that it's a bit dated. Now, it probably is, because Cody Miller, the guy that designed this game, in his Kickstarter, basically, in one of his videos, had said that this is an idea that he'd had for, I don't know, like 10 years, 15 years, something like that. And it was something that had just been running around in his head for a long time until he eventually just decided to sit down and make it. Now, because of that, I think he didn't really change too much about his original ideas, and a lot of it is just based on dice roll. So anytime you do anything in this game, so if you use an engine, you use a blaster, you use a missile, you use your shield or anything, depending on how good that particular thing is, you roll a certain die. So it starts at D6, so you roll a 6-sided dice for the sort of smallest engines, blasters, whatever. You can get bigger ones that take up more space in your hold, and that would maybe roll a D8, or then you maybe roll a D12, or I think the biggest missile, you can roll a D20 for that to do damage, which is just ridiculous, but you only get one shot with it before you have to recharge it.
I think it's the same for all the missiles. Yeah,
all the missiles.
The missiles is a single shot. The blasters are usually like multiple shots. But you can only arm 4 modules in a thing enemy, but the missiles are best.
So yeah, anytime that you do anything in this game, you've got to roll one of these dice, and yeah, you can just get horrendous luck with it.
Yeah.
Or you can get really good luck. I mean, you can just be constantly rolling. Yeah. You know, you use that crappy little engine that you've got, and you can be rolling 5s and 6s every time, which lets you move 5 or 6 spaces across the galaxy. Whereas the person that's got the biggest engine in the planet could end up rolling 1s and 2s every turn and just not going anywhere. And I think that was, like I say, I think that was what put me off, because it just didn't feel right. Like, if you've got the biggest engine, I mean, you could roleplay it and just be like, oh no, it's Han Solo, you know, his engine doesn't work, it never goes to light speed, you know, he's constantly punching it, but no. No. In a game like this, if you buy a much bigger engine than somebody else has got, you feel that you should have a certain advantage in your speed for that. Or I do anyway. I feel like there should be something to offset that a bit.
Yeah.
But, you know what, like I say, it is luck. So, the expansion, Zaya, Embers of a Forsaken Star. So, I picked this up. I wasn't actually going to do it, but I did. I ended up going for the Kickstarter for that. And that's added in so many more things. And it's added in some things that do kind of offset some of that luck. So, it's added in one thing, which is an economy system. And this kind of... I get the feeling that's there to battle there is a slight flaw in the base game, in that if you could find 2 planets right next to each other, one of which creates a certain cargo cube and the other of which will buy it, you could just have a really easy time of it just by moving the 4 spaces between those planets and just constantly buying and selling, and then you win the game.
It always seemed to me an inherent flaw in the design of that game, that they just never... I was surprised that they'd allowed to sort of get in there. But
that's the thing, and once you quite quickly realise that was just a winning strategy. So they kind of offset that a bit now, because they've added an economy thing where basically you're not going to be able to do that. You could do it for a very short time, but then you would run out of options and you have to go and do something else. Yeah. So that does help. It does help with one of the big flaws in the base game.
Yeah.
One of the other things they've done is they've added in certain modifications. So if you've got like an engine, for example, you can buy a little modification. It's very cheap. You can stick it next to your engine, and that modification will always add +2 to your dice rolls. Excellent. The game needed that.
Yeah.
Like, it totally needed that, because, like I say, it's obviously not just me that's been having this complaint about the game, if they've decided to sort of fix that, because now you can only roll a minimum of 3 if you've got that modification, rather than the minimum of 1. So at least you're going to go somewhere. You're not just going to be slowly moving across the galaxy and not getting anywhere.
Yeah, and they've got modifications for the weapons as well, so things like that, just to kind of give you a bit of boost for everything. It does seem that everything in it like directly addresses all the sort of the major problems of the base game.
Yeah,
but I mean, like you say, I think at the end of when we played the other day, it still kind of has that. Well, I mean, the element of luck is in there anyway, and they've almost kind of like made that part of the game. Is it like in terms of like thematically?
Yeah, I think it
because
is.
It's what I noticed when we played it this time, because a couple of things, the economy system, and just like some of the extra tiles, like the new kind of things, like you had these ones with gravity, and comets going around and things like that. So it kind of changed how you would approach that. It felt much more like a kind of, and it's, you know, originally it was like Legends of a Drift system, and it's, you know, you get fame points as your kind of, that's how you score it if you're playing it competitively. And it does feel like that's the whole point of it, this game, is to kind of just put yourself up against the game and just try and...
put yourself at the game's mercy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like, it is about like just kind of pulling off, like, one of the... I mean, it is in the base game, one of the... there's like title cards that you can get as you go through the game that will give you extra fame points, is to go to... You go to like... it's like junk areas, and you can salvage them, and then basically you roll a d20, and you'll get roll of a 1 to a 3.
Your ship instantly blows up.
Instant death. And the thing is to roll that 7 times in one turn and not blow up.
Yeah.
It's almost like they've gone like, okay, that's part of the game. It's pretty daft. Let's make a virtue of it somehow.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there is that boring strategy we talked about earlier, where you can just trade and trade and trade and trade and trade. And I'm calling it a boring strategy. Some people probably like that.
Yeah, that's if it wins the game.
Thing that they like to do. If it wins the game, why not? But yeah, there are the options there to just do ridiculous stuff and just put yourself in the hands of fate. So yeah, like some of the other things that this expansion adds in, like you say, it adds in the comets and the gravity thing, which is a very interesting thing, and it did add a new dynamic to the game, because you could go into certain systems and you would have to really consider if this was a good idea, because there's a chance that you get pulled into a sort of gravity thing and you will get just shoved round this tile for a while. If that happens, there's like a black hole and stuff like that, so you could end up just getting totally sucked into that just by a couple of bad dice rolls. And yeah, they've added in the comets, which also do that sort of thing where they've got a path that they follow. And there we go. I deliberately moved into a space, so I was 6 spaces away from this comet, and then had to roll to move it, and I rolled the 6, which just made it blast into me right near the beginning of the game. And it's just,
But all that stuff kind of serves that. It does enhance that feeling of like, you pitting yourself against the odds. It's like
it does.
All of the kind of environmental things that they've added into this have this like really dangerous element to them.
Yeah, and
it does all sort of serve. I guess it kind of balances the game out in terms of everything is just mental and it's kind of just based on the luck of a dice roll, and it makes you kind of more. I found it made me more appreciative of it.
Yeah,
I think it played. It changed how I played the game.
Yeah,
I think I've probably played it more cautiously.
Yes, I would agree.
Previously, I felt a lot more determined to just go and try things.
I'm the same as well. I did feel like that this expansion, and I don't know how it really does it. I don't know if it's just a combination of everything, but it does kind of push you into. I'm going to have to go and do something. Like, I can't just sit around waiting for something to happen. I have to go and do something. I have to get across there and do this or whatever. The other thing is, like, I mean, the game, the expansion adds in a whole load of new sector tiles, so your game board is now a whole lot bigger, which again offsets that trading thing, because you're going to find that planets are more likely to be further away from each other, because there's a lot more sectors that just have nothing in them, or they're just horrendous.
And I think that's the thing as well, that probably for all of us, there was whole sectors of the board that we didn't go. Yeah. There was a lot of big chunk of it that I didn't go to. There was bits of that I was going around that I don't think either of you ever came into. So it is, it definitely feels bigger. I suppose it's harder to get from one place to another as well. There's a lot more obstacles.
I think the game that we played with the expansion was quite a strange one, because we still had a couple of tiles left before the game ended. Sector tiles. Which I don't think has ever happened any time that we've played this. No. That we've had sector tiles left over that haven't been explored. But I think that because 2 of those tiles were possibly gates, like the gates that take you from one place to instantly teleport you across the board, sort of thing.
I remember one of them was a planet, because people kept getting missions for
that did come out towards the end. It did come out towards the end, but it was the 2 gates. One of them was the broken gate, and one of them was a normal gate.
Yeah.
The broken gate that just teleports you in a random place. And one of them was another gate but because those gates weren't there, we were all just kind of sitting in our own little bits of the galaxy, just kind of like, well, there's nowhere really there's no point in us going all the way over there just to interact with this thing. I'll try and find something to do in the bit that I'm in. And also, the first thing that came out, they added some event cards into this as well, actually, so you get random events, and the very first event that came out turned all the neutral planets into outlaw planets, which kind of like made the game just completely different for the entirety of the game, because that never went out of play. And any time that you went to one of the neutral planets to try and trade something or buy something or get a mission or whatever, you're instantly getting a bounty on your head. It was crazy.
Yeah, we pretty much all had bounties for most of the game. We were kind of worried about when, because again I guess it must be like the main lawful planet comes out, but it has the enforcer on it. That didn't come out till much later in the game as well, because we were all a bit that. I think actually that started to make us a bit cautious about scanning, because I was kind of like, if I go in this direction, there's not much else. I don't have a lot of places to go, and if that suddenly turns round on me, it could be a problem. Because I had a very basic ship to start with. I went for like all generic, always kind of. I want one shield and one engine and one missile, but they're all the crappiest ones of each. But at least I've got something.
Okay, I'll just quickly go over a few of the other things that the expansion adds in. So there's ice damage, which is horrendous because it spreads. Don't get ice damage if you can help it, unless you're just going completely mad. They've added in a space station, which sort of just orbits a sort of dead star. Yeah. Or it's a blue dwarf or something like that.
It just functions as another planet, basically.
Yeah, it basically functions as a planet. It's the only place that you can sell the new type of cargo cube as well, which is Ember, which is something that you can get from mining ice asteroids. So yeah, they've added in ice asteroids into the game, so you might get ice damage from going through those. They've also added in some new sort of outfit things which can serve as extra cargo space in your ship. So it's actually additional space in your ship for cargo, or you can use it as armour plating on the other side of the tile, so it lets you soak up more damage, which is an interesting thing. Actually, I think that's it opens up a whole new area of strategy. If you're being able to put armour plating on a tiny little ship, just cover it in armour plating, make a miniature tank,
just an engine and a bunch
just
of
fire a missile at somebody. There's also relics, which are just sort of like ancient things that you can go and pick up and then take to the space station to see what they are, and they give you like fame points or specific things like money or modifications or something like that. And there's a whole load of new like title cards. There's 3 new ships, new mission types, and some of the new mission types are interesting as well. I think the game needed new mission types because there was only like 4 different types in the base game and they were a bit samey. The new mission types are quite interesting actually. Because one of them involves you having to go and buy like missiles from somewhere and then transport them to some pirates somewhere else.
Do some actual arms dealing.
A bit more theme to the game. It adds a bit more flavour to it and stuff. So yeah, overall, the expansion improves the game massively for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't really want to play it without it now.
Yeah.
I don't think. It pretty much makes it.
You don't have to play with everything in the expansion at once, so it is kind of modular. You can throw in just bits if you want to. But, I mean, we played with everything, and I just think that there is nothing in that expansion that makes it a worse game. It only improves it.
And there's stuff that there's plenty of stuff that we still haven't experienced in there.
Yeah.
Could be a lot of because the events, that's all part of that. There's the comet.
The giant comet is one of the giant comet.
Yeah.
Well, we're quite interested in how that would appear. Presumably it's a random event, but judging by what I've read about it, and it just destroys everything. Just absolutely destroys everything in its path, and it'll just move across the galaxy, just ruining absolutely everything. Great fun. Anything else to say?
Not really. I enjoy Zaya.
Where would you rank this, Euan? Is this one of your favourite games?
I guess as Zaya and Mage Wars kind of suffer from the same problems, kind of somehow its strengths at the same time, they must be around the same ranking.
All right.
I don't know which one's above the other. It's a blurry bit of a mess.
So are you in good or are you in great?
I would say
on the Euan scale.
In a Euan great.
A Euan great.
A Euan great.
Euan great.
Have you had a Euan great installed?
Okay, let's stop this nonsense. Let's wrap this episode up. Actually, so yeah, that was Zaya, Legends of a Drift System, and the expansion Embers of a Forsaken Star. So that's by Cozy Miller and Far Off Games.
Nice.
Okay, so we'll give it all our internet stuff. If you want to email us, ask us any questions, just any general stuff, whatever, we can answer questions on the show if you would like us to. That is firstplayertoken@gmail.com, so that's FIRST Player Token. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. We have a website, which is firstplayertoken.com. We have a Discord, which is, if you go to the link, discord.me/firstplayertoken, again, FIRST. We have a PSN community. If you want to join that, it's a PlayStation Network community. You can join us on there. I should have said our Twitter handle is, because we have to be specific about this.
Oh, it's Once Player Token.
It's Once Player Token. It's at 1ST Player Token and not FIRST Player Token, because that doesn't fit according to Twitter. My Twitch username is Unnecessary Chris if you want to watch me playing video games, which I have been doing a hell of a lot more recently. I think 4 times in the past week, actually. 4 times I've been streaming. I've been going mad for it.
We did Overcooked the other day,
yes,
which was a lot of fun.
I've put some of those streams up on YouTube, and one of them is you and I playing Overcooked on the PS4. Very strange microphone quality. I don't think that PS4 enjoys microphones very much, but
it sounded okay. I watched
lots
the video.
Of distortion going on at times, but I think I might just be me screaming with excitement.
I think it probably picks up us quite loud, but yeah. That's a bit of inside information for the listeners.
It was a fun time doing that stream. So that video's on there. Go and have a look at that, because I actually think it's pretty funny sitting watching it back, especially the bit when you set the whole kitchen on fire. Amazing, great fun. And lastly, we are part of the Podnose Network,
the UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
Any news, you?
New addition to the Podnose Network: 3 Men in a Podcast. It's a music podcast.
Yes,
actually.
I
was looking at that. Sort of forgot what was going on there for a second. It looks quite interesting. Actually, I was looking at some of the tunes that they were talking about.
Cool,
a few favourites in there. So yeah.
So if you want to go and have a look at the network, which has got a lot of different podcasts on it now,
There's a variety,
and they're all on a variety of topics, then you can go to podnose.com, have a look at those. And before we go, we have one small, minor, mediocre, large announcement.
I'll see how much this impacts anybody's life.
One announcement to make, which is we're going to take a break. And we're going to give ourselves a little holiday. There are a few reasons for it, but the main one is that we're kind of because it's the summer. There's not a lot of people available for us to actually play board games and stuff with, so we're gonna have to try and play catch up, I think, for a couple of weeks. But yeah, I think we have a summer holiday every year now. It's become a tradition, so
yeah, we've had to take off time at some point. So
yeah, we're going to take a couple of weeks off to go and do our own thing for a couple of weeks. We're still the gaming never stops. We're going to keep playing games. I'm going to keep streaming, so yeah, keep looking out for that. But there won't be any podcast episodes for the next couple of weeks. So we will be back. Hopefully it will be the very end of July or early August. We will put another episode out. And until then, thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Bye.